I think it's a dopamine thing. I think it's like, as graph goes, I think it's a sort of a measured amount of dopamine that, you know, less than most people. Therefore, I can be quite calm in those situations, and I can adapt my body and change my speech
and challenge yourself
and
to
give eye contact, and you know, like and be courteous, and you know, but there's something for me that it's just been a common strain.
Has it ever got tricky?
Yeah.
Killa Kela podcast. KillaKelaOfficial.com.
Street Culture TV.
Instagram UK Frontline.
Beatbox created.
Killa Kela.
And we're here to talk about world music and street culture.
Killa Kela podcast.
Hold on to your hats. Here we come. Ladies and gentlemen, Killa Kela podcast live and direct, Central London, or as central as you need to be, choose to be, wherever you want to be. You're right here, and we're gracious to accept you in. Welcome. Okay, people, our sponsors, the mighty GK Nifty Heads, have 10,000 play-to-earn GraffPunks NFTs to give away. Get ready as London's white trash goes blockchain digital with Bitcoin Cash tokens locked into them to claim. Get yourselves over to the website gkniftyheads.com and play to earn now. Inside the house today, we have a Bristolian West Country veteran, a gentleman that I've seen from very early pastures and working to the fullest. A man that is part of the institution of graffiti, you understand. Minto in the house. How are you, my brother?
Yes, man.
Good to see you, my brother.
Yeah,
Good to see you. How are you?
Yeah, good. Thank you for having me on, brother.
We're very lucky to have you here because you're a man of many journeys and many things that are going on, aren't you?
Not too bad.
A lot of things that are happening, and I think one of the things that occurs to mind is this idea of the nomadic approach to graffiti, and the nuances in which that prevails, like the idea of like you just keeping on, but working with your lifestyle. That's something that is ever prevalent in your work, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely. I've travelled like a lot over the years in terms of movement between the age of like 0 and 9. I'd moved by 4 schools from Edinburgh to the Scottish borders to central North Glasgow to then Bristol, sort of central Bristol, and then went to high school outside Bristol, and then went to Plymouth, and then to London, and then tried London, and then didn't work out, and it financially ejected me, and then I went back towards Bristol again, and then reconsolidated, and then moved here, 2015, around that, and gave it a good shunt again, and then I've had another spell of that, and I've left again. But in the meanwhile, I used to travel with work and do 1,000 miles a week driving, you know.
Really?
Yeah, 8 hours a day, and then get the job fitted in and then move around. So as a result of that, I used to see a lot of graph all around the UK. My remit was all of Wales and like Staffordshire right down to London, but not as far over as Essex.
That's crazy.
Yeah, right down to the bottom of Cornwall, yeah. So I used to like be able to do that, and while I was doing that, not only clock the graph, but have a little pop at it as well.
That's mad, isn't it? Like I think for a lot of people that work in a creative environment, it's almost imperative that you have this like safe space, somewhere where you can like be creative and hone a craft. You know.
Yeah.
The idea of being so free, you know, nomadic, and working with the nuances. That in itself is like a very, you know, bespoke way of travel, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. And I think it's not the same for everyone. I mean, a lot of writers, they'll pick up a pen and they'll copy the person that they admire the most. And I think that stands for a lot of writers, you know, be it characters or through letters. And me included, I think my first one ever was in Barton Hill in the dugout in '88, and I copied...
88, you know. 88.
I copied a wizard.
Come on, cuz.
I copied a wizard. I think it was a Mo 2 wizard or something like that. In a stairwell off to the side, away from everyone else, knowing that you can't go over the cool shit, you know. And I was seeing people like Vulcan and the Biotats crew and like coming over because through 3D from Delta from Massive Attack, he was one of the first UK writers on his own, going hitting cool spots very early on, and had links with the States through Milo and that, you know, the Wild Bunch lot.
That's right.
So basically, we were the younger generation watching what was going on in front of us in a very, like down to earth little community centre, which is surrounded by blocks of flats, and for me, like being a person from those areas, I was into sport, football, athletics, rugby.
Just keeping yourself
all
out
that
of
sort of
trouble.
thing. Keep yourself in those sort of areas. It's very much worth it. You know what I mean? And then from there, also enjoying a bit of trespassing, and that's when you get to see like Graff.
Man,
you know.
88 must have been a whole different
It was,
era
man.
for that time.
Yeah, like
Wild Bunch. Come on, man.
yeah, they were really kind of coming through. There was already stuff in terms of even like just hip hop alone. It was quite advanced, because the mixture of cultures in Bristol is far more than a lot of people
Give
might
credit for.
understand.
Yeah, that's right, yeah.
Even so, like, when I've sort of moved back that way more recently, it's much more again. It's a beautiful city. It's full of like drama and hedonism, and we call it Peter Pan land sometimes. People are like kind of
We love that.
forever. But yeah. So ultimately, with writing and starting there, it's just characters, and then my sport took over, and then gave that a good go. And weirdly, that Operation Anderson happened in '89 in Bristol, so 72 arrests, loads of doors knocked down, and with that sentences. So when we got going, really, it was mid '90s, so it had all gone quiet, and
Right.
rave music had come out,
Yeah.
and so jungle in Bristol was a big thing, because
huge
after your
thing,
Fabian
yeah.
Groove Rider here, you had Ronnie and Represent and all those that
That's
lot
right.
there.
That's right.
So a lot of writers put the cans down and just went raving, like in big numbers. And the benefit of Bristol was that your county lines are such that illegal parties, you could like go into one, and when the criminal justice bill came in, then if the police arrested or tried to close you down, you could just say, we're going, we're off. And then it would be like a message to your mates. Quite often pagers would come in, like starting to happen, weren't they?
Yeah.
And
If you know, you know.
and then you would just move to another county. So like Avon was
Really?
Yeah. So Avon, and then you had Gloucestershire, became South Gloucestershire, Wiltshire, and into Devon, and you had those areas whereby and over into Wales, so you could literally just move camp quite quickly.
Wow.
And then start, and the police didn't have jurisdiction to sort of provide the information to the forces in the same way. So that was like an illegal. So it was a big hotbed.
Yeah. Constant movement of. Wow,
Yeah,
that's
yeah.
crazy.
Big rave scene.
I've got family in Devonshire.
Have you? Whereabouts?
Yeah, Newton Abbot.
Okay, yeah. Down near Torquay.
Yeah, big up my Newton Abbot crew.
Wee.
Yeah, we know what it is. We know what it is.
Yeah.
That's mad that you were able to operate and work in accordance to the landscape of that.
Yeah. And there's so for us painting in that era, if we called it the Dark Ages, and we also
Was it the Dark Ages?
Well, it was quiet. You had like less actual crews like battling over spots. So places we brought back to life in a way were ours for a good while. We didn't have really the worry about someone taking them out, and the territorialism from different crews was such that you didn't really have to worry so much. And then a lot of students come down to Bristol, and they really want to stay in Bristol. So you had like crews like that came from like places like Hull, Wolverhampton, sort of that came down, and then you had some people coming from over this side, sort of east, sort of heading in, and they had a little kind of they brought something new, and then it made the old Bristol lot go
Resurgence.
Yeah, and then we had a really good standard for a good while then, in that period, like late '90s. It was really kicking off then, and from my input to the scene there was that in the late '90s, I thought there's no place for all these writers that I meet, like to be able to showcase their work in. We know them as illegal street writers, or becoming street artists. Some of them, but they haven't got a designated space to showcase their work. So we set up this little social enterprise, which was called Freedom Fields, and we did nights called The Tonic, and the relationship was tectonic plates. So we did it in an old cinema off Jamaica Street.
Nice.
And we used to do graph art, animation, film, DJ, music production. DMC, early VJing, like on slide
Really?
projectors, and we did it on live.
Wow.
We did it on dial-up. We even put it on dial-up
Wow.
with the intention of getting National Lottery funding and Millennium Arts funding. And this was like 99, so I put on about 5 events around then, and framed other people's artworks till 4 in the morning often, all on a shoestring budget. So that was our kind of bit in there.
Bristol is about that. The West Country is all about that.
Yeah, it is, isn't it? Like,
Yeah, totally.
you know, you forget it. You think everyone's doing it.
Yeah,
you know
but
what I
they're
mean?
not.
But they're not.
They're not doing it like they're doing it.
They're not.
Whole different gravy.
But you come here to London, and then things step up another level, and you're like, you know, people can back things up more, and there's more yes people, and they can get sorted. Whereas sometimes
Yeah, but I like the ad hoc. I like the, you know, the way that not just Bristol but Brighton and all these different, like, it's like beautiful incubation places where you
Yeah.
can try different stuff.
Yeah.
You know, Rex said it on podcasts.
Oh,
It's like,
amazing. Yeah.
you know, just
yeah,
doing things in a different way, in reverse psychology of like how you do, so even pieces and things like that. You guys, you know, you hold a crown for that. I believe,
Yeah.
you know.
We always had like mad respect for Brighton, like in Bristol. It was like we were looking at each other as there was a standard.
There's
you know?
kinship.
Yeah.
100%.
But they were a really good standard, and we like to think we were a good standard. And there was a little battle there from a distance, but it was respect. There was a
Yeah,
lot
it
of respect
was.
for
It
Yeah.
was.
Yeah.
It's like it's a healthy competition, isn't it? A healthy competition for its time.
Yeah. Yeah.
Very
it was.
beautiful.
Yeah, man. And Graffitism, I think, was just the magazine that you
Yeah.
flick through and you'd be going.
Influenced that kind of behaviour. Yeah.
And one day you're like, you meet all these people, and you know, you think that it's going to be more clicky and there's going to be more
It's one and the
gatekeepers,
same.
or but like as time goes on with the right attitude, you end up kind of getting on with it anyway.
Yeah.
And I feel very blessed in that I certainly when I came here, 2015, you know, last time. That I had people that were already like, come on, when you come in, you know, and we're going to show you around, and you know, and I feel very blessed in the friends that I've met since I've been in this city. Here we are in Piccadilly.
Yeah, exactly. We're in the centre. We're in the centre, baby. I might just add as well, you know, my introduction to you was through Tizer. Big up Tizer.
Big up Tizer.
And Graffiti
Big up
Kings, GraffPunks, you know, just having that dialogue and getting a great understanding. Yes, we must.
Okay.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. We're on a podcast.
Right time, isn't it?
Yes, that's absolutely.
Still cold as well.
It's still
Kella.
cold,
Hey.
brother. God bless you.
Tottenham's finest as well.
Yeah,
all the time.
yeah, exactly. Cheers to your health, people.
Cheers to your health, man.
Yeah. Where did it begin, brother? Where did it begin for you?
So I was in Glasgow
by the way.
for a
Cheers.
year. Cheers, brother. Say.
Cheers, my brother.
I was in Glasgow around about the age of sort of 7, and our school, like because where I was from prior to that was on Scottish borders, like on the River Tweed. It's a little place. We didn't have the Catholic Protestant stuff going on there. It's very different in that part of Scotland there, mainly because they used to switch churches back in the day for fear of being done in.
Oh, really?
So it's more complex. But
My algorithms are going crazy right now.
yeah, it was, yeah.
Yeah.
And so at Glasgow, and then started seeing like, you know, like your Chad, you know, Kilroy character,
Yeah.
the nose over
Yeah,
the
yeah,
wall,
totally.
all that.
Yeah.
So I started seeing that, and then it was like punk anarchy, like kind of slogans, and then there's obviously you got your sectarian stuff, you know, a bit like Belfast. Glasgow has, you know,
Man,
certainly
like,
back then.
Glasgow didn't fuck about back then.
No.
That was a whole different. It's like cut and dry. It was like that.
Yeah, I mean, I was only there for a very short time, for about a year, and then headed down to Bristol. But in terms of my experience there, it was, I mean, you had different lollipop ladies, going across the road.
Really?
And then meeting in the railway embankment and upside in one school, big schools, left and right. You know, for infant sort of age kids, it was mad. Yeah. So when I came to Bristol, I was like, I'm the king of the castle.
Yeah.
Check me out with my kind of, my confidence. But then you realise, you know,
So how old were you at that time?
I was only 8 years old, 7, 8 years old when I came to Bristol.
Fucking rock star.
Yeah,
You
like
see?
just real young, and And I'd already found a porn of mine in a lane once and thrown it over the gate to the Catholic school, and the next thing I'm in trouble for that. You know,
Really?
like up and
You
over
were
the
trouble
top.
starter to begin with.
I was just I've always been a mischief man, but like I'm a good mischief, you know.
Mm-hmm.
But so it came down, and then the race riots had just happened in Bristol. And so my area was like St. George, where I first went down. It was the St. George Barton Hill, St. Paul's, around there. And the race had just happened, so there was a lot of like unrest, but rioting, and lots of rioting going in other cities at the same time, didn't you?
Yeah.
But so it was a tough area. So I went from one tough to one tough, and that I'd say set me up for life. Right, that moment there set me up for life.
How? What, explain
Well, for
that.
example, I got a job in Los Angeles, right, and I was painting a mural for a company that provides the trolley dollies to Blue Arrow and American Airlines, right? So I had like 10 days of painting like canteen, foyer, like some corporate-y style stuff, but some graph and canteen and whatnot. And they gave me a bunch. They said, like, what do you want to do? Do you want to book your own, or do you want us to do it? And I was like, I'll book my own, thank you. And they were like, so where are you staying? And I was like, Inglewood. And they were like, what? Inglewood? And I was like, yeah. And then even when I was in Inglewood, they were looking at me going, you're like this micro Viking that's walking around our neighbourhood thinking that you're at home.
Wow.
And I'm like, should I have a problem? Nah, not now, sonny. And then word spread, and there was this little kind of blonde lad that's going around Inglewood. And I was like, and they were like, why? I was like, NWA, Listen to NWA as a kid. And I wanted to go and experience it, for myself. Have a wander
Do you
around.
know that isn't normal? That could lead you to a whole different...
Yeah, I've
What,
been
did
a
you
risk
just
taker
throw
all my life,
Really?
man. Yeah.
Just throw yourself in?
Yeah. I've been in Berlin '93, and I went to see getting the Bergheim sort of. And next thing you know, I'm being chased with machetes. The wall
Really?
had just come down. I've had like lots of experiences where it's like, just put yourself in an opportunity to, and normally it's all good.
To a lot of people, this idea of like putting yourself into a situation, for a lot of graffiti writers, they've got no other choice but to assimilate to the situation they're in. But you purposely put yourself in that situation.
Yeah. I think it's a dopamine thing. I think it is like, as graph goes, I think it's there's sort of a measured amount of dopamine that,
Yeah.
less than most people. Therefore, I can be quite calm in those situations, and I
Yeah.
can adapt my body and change my speech
And challenge yourself.
and
to
give eye
the-
contact, and and be courteous, and but there's something for me that it's just been a common strain.
Has it ever got
but-
tricky?
Yeah, yeah.
Give me an example of when it got tricky.
Do you know the worst ones have been, I'd say, in small towns, smaller towns in England.
Really?
Yeah, like in terms of you carry a certain like level of confidence that is not
That it's not-
appreciated
that
in a
doesn't connect,
smaller
yeah.
place, So like, say Newton Abbot, right? You say,
Yeah.
like I'd say Plymouth, right? When I was in Plymouth for 2 years, on a Friday night, you had a place called Union Street. Have you ever been there? Have you ever performed at the
Is
academy?
it by the
or any of that?
dance academy? Yeah,
Yeah.
I know it. Yeah.
And big up Plymouth, by the way.
Yeah, hold tight, Plymouth.
Mad city.
All the crew.
like, real
All the
cool,
crew.
yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
But you'd have your Navy lot, your students, and your locals. They were from, say, Devonport, Swilly kind of way, and it's just a mad mix. So like, that's one of those places that's a port, and it just
What could possibly go wrong?
yeah, exactly. And I don't want to go into too many details there, but things happen, in those kind of
Well, you
environments.
think that's more extreme than like going into Inglewood?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah, because in Inglewood, first of all, I don't look like them. Like in terms of anyone in their neighbourhood, Like a guy, I was watering his gardens.
Yeah.
Like yeah, like that. And then he goes, "You must be from the United Kingdom." And I'm like, "How do you know that?" And he was like, "You just don't look like, you've
You
got
should
Karen
be here.
Oral." Yeah. But it was a wonderful experience. I wouldn't have changed that for the world. That was great. I went to Colombia for 3 weeks, before lockdown. And that was a really interesting one.
Talk to me about that. What happened there?
Well, so there's a lad that was studying at LCC here, a photography course, right? And he's called Alejo. Big up Alejo if you're watching.
Alejo.
You're a mad cool guy. He's from Bogota. And he said, if ever you come over and stay with me. I was like, cool. So I planned a holiday, and I went straight from Madrid to Medellin, like, first.
Where's Medellin, by the way?
Medellin is from Bogota. It's like further down, sort of southwesty, sort of from there, I believe. It's famous for Pablo Escobar, and also the FARC, and it's got Comuna 13, which was where the FARC came in and based themselves, which is a guerrilla organization, based themselves, and then the area itself had huge problems with it because it was used as a military base, right?
Right.
But now they use tourism and they have mad street art and they break dancing and hip hop.
Wow.
And it's an area that is kind of designated to it, right?
The truest gentrification you could ever have.
Oh man,
Yeah.
and some of them don't like. There's slogans around saying "piss off,"
Really?
yeah, and all that sort of stuff. But it's also understood that there's a sort of financial benefit in terms of for the area. So there's good stuff going on. So I went there and I went and used my mobile phone and used Google Translate to get in touch with a lad who writes like Leo Dos over there. He was a cool guy, and I really liked the way that what he did was, so like a pound sign, you do that kind of, I don't know what it's called, like that.
Yeah,
at the beginning,
calligraphy kind
yeah.
of, that kind of.
So you went like
Right.
that. If you imagine that as a tag, and he's gone E. Let's see, Leo Dos, Leo 2.
Mm-hmm.
He's gone E, and then walked down the road doing E's, like the whole lot, and then into this mad Zorro 2, like the O, and then there's
Yeah,
like
yeah,
that.
yeah.
Whole piece started.
Cool
down the
as
street.
fuck. Wow.
Exactly. So I was like, I reckon me and you'll get on. And then he went, yeah, all right. So this is all before I got there. And then he went, you come to my comuna. And I turned up, and then he got a crate, and he put it in front of me, and he went, commission? And I was like, I know exactly what that means, because
Don't need to translate that.
anyone who does graph gets a commission. Normally you get like Montana Gold, and it's all there, and you've got all the extra colours and all that sort of stuff. So I've gone
Happy days.
I've gone light, medium, dark. And he's gone light, medium, dark. Oh, okay, I know that. And then we went round the corner, rubbed down the wall with a stone, with a rock. I'd never seen that before. I'd never
That's
seen
crazy.
anyone priming a wall like that.
What, with rock?
With a rock, just rubbing it all over the thing to get rid of all the little chips and shit to make it
that's
nice.
Mad.
Yeah, and then we did a piece where we just both freestyled it, and we went like through that colourway together, and then the locals came and got the zoots out, and then I went a bit wibbly, and then finished my piece, and I had to get a flight back that day, and thought, fuck, I'm fucked, and it's still there to this day. They've looked
Really?
after it.
Still
Locals have like completely no tags, no side bustings, you know what that is, where the kids come and put the tag on there. Nothing like that. It's still there to this day, man.
That's incredible.
Yeah. So it was a great experience, that, using technology in that way.
Yeah.
It reminded me of like how trains used to be, say, from Philadelphia through to the New York. And it's like you're sending your name, so some people you know, some people you've never met, some people you're saying hi to that you've never met. And then eventually, if one comes back, then it's that kind of communication, which I think is really pretty.
It
dope,
kind of goes back to early informative years. Like, there's certain things that work, particularly with freights. Freights nowadays, particularly in America, is like, it's a given. And when you're working with different, cultural climates of different areas of graffiti, you have to adapt. You have to adapt and work with it. Like, these are the sort of things that I think a lot of, not so much yourself, but, to understand when you drop into a place and you're having to work with the nuances,
Yeah.
you just got to adapt.
That's it. I can't stand having a thing in my hand and copying it. I can't stand doing any prep work, like these doodle walls that people are doing. I've got nothing against them if they want to get to it. And I understand it if it's a commission and it needs to look tight. I understand that. But if you take a piece, especially if it's detailed, and then you turn up on site and there's a bit of wall missing, or like there's a shard
gotta
of
work
metal,
with it.
exactly. And there's danger points. You can take your finger off with like a gnarly screw coming out of a wall,
totally.
or like in some cases, like if you work on iron, is amazing to paint on. If you've ever done that, like round scrap heaps.
Well, I don't know what you're talking about. I don't
He doesn't know what we're talking about.
I don't encourage this kind of thing on a podcast.
Oh yeah, ask permission.
Ask permission first.
Yeah,
Don't talk
always,
to anyone.
Yeah. So, but I've seen them where they've like almost cartoon shards where the JCB has punctured the.
And they work within that.
And then it's coming out at you, and you're going for a mad off move, and next thing you know, you're going to lacerate yourself. So you have to. So if you know how to adapt to the wall and the conditions, and also the weather here, the weather can stop you. Like if it gets dark at like 3, 4 in the afternoon or something.
Yeah, absolutely.
And you've turned up late, and you've got that chance to get something done, but you've got a detailed sketch on you. You're going to get pissed off, isn't it? Yeah. So like, I think that. For me, like, it was more about make mistakes and don't feel scared of it. And I knew that some would be shite, and some would be all right, and some would be better than all right.
Yeah, but that's confidence in yourself, isn't it? That comes back to what you're bringing to the table.
Yeah.
Risking against the odds, and actually working to the nuances of what you're painting on, which is a whole different conversation. It's a whole different thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's fucking crazy. It's crazy.
Yeah. Like it. Say from like the old trespass sort of scenario, right? Say you go into a factory and there's a furnace there, and you look at the furnace and go, "It's a classic thing." Some people keep seeing faces and everything, and there's a term attached to it. I don't know what the term is. My lady friend, she knows, but like, I looked at it and I remember seeing this Terminator X style goggles. And then it's got like spaghetti coming out for a ramp of it. And I opened it up and I ended up painting it with pinks and whites and took a photo of it. And the whole thing looked like a pig with Terminator X glasses.
Really? So
yeah.
big fucking...
with spaghetti coming out its mouth,
Do you love that? Do you love working with the constraints of the space and the kind of what you're talking about? This whole bit of thing of pulling off there, and a shard of glass, and you love that.
I don't mind it. I enjoy it in from time to time in a sort of almost like a seasonal thing. But what I really like is I love concrete, flat walls, expansive, and I love stretching out and going for what I call like a kind of like Tai Chi in front of the wall. Like moves where it's a bit like bouldering. Like, have you ever done bouldering before?
No. Tell me about bouldering.
Bouldering, you go to a bouldering
Talking
centre.
Minto, we just in deep fucking conversation talking about bouldering.
Yeah, let's talk bouldering, man. Right, so go to a bouldering centre, and then they go, right, are you a novice? Like, go for the big jug holds, right? So you got things that are easy to climb up. And then you start blowing your arms out. They get lactic acid kicks in, and you're like, ugh, I'm knackered.
Yeah.
You just chill out, go and eat a fucking flapjack or something. But then you're watching your mate, and he's a bit better than you, and he's going for ones with little bubblegum fixtures on and stuff. He's getting his hips real close in and stuff. And then you start going, okay, that's the way that he does it, but he might be taller than you and rangy. So it's
his
very
fingers
much,
might be a little bit more nimble.
His fingers might be strong, his fingers might be, proper
These
nimble
motherfuckers,
fingers.
Same sort of thing, isn't it?
Yeah.
So you're working with real details of like how you can pattern things up.
Yeah. So for me, I love not caring about my colourways. I know which colours I like anyway, but
What's your favourite colours?
Oh,
I know it's a lame,
right,
lame as a question, but come
Okay,
on.
well, I'll say, so Belton, although it's a brand that I buy very rarely because I think the prices have gone up, all right, it's inflation and all that, but and over the long period of time, has it got, anyway, Lumit's Aubergine. Do you know Lumit's Aubergine?
Yes, I do.
Right, so every colour, like a piglet pink, or a Subutio kind of green, or Kermit green kind of vibe, or like your telly magenta, or a real Smurf blue, anything instead of black, that kicks off or
Yes.
luminous aubergine, something different, you know. So I like that. I like burgundies and honey yellows and zingy colours. I like a bit of fluoro, but don't like to overcook
get
it.
you.
But I do like a little bit of doodads at the end.
It's more kind of filler colours that work with each other on a level of not beigey, but can fit in within themselves, right?
Yeah, and also if I take mulch, I like my mulch to be like not super dark, like a few tones up from super dark, right? And then that allows you.
Why is that?
Because then that allows you to bring out your black, and it will then
Pops
provide
off.
that extra. And because the way that I develop my style, which I definitely know is my style, and like,
Definitely knows it's his style.
It's not.
Come on,
I kept
baby.
my eyes away from a lot of writers
Talk
over
that
the
shit.
years. I just wanted to do my thing, but I like using the background as the negative fill.
Yeah.
Right? So I will go for a brave outline. And then work around that outline in order for the negative, the mulch, to then
To
become a
pop
flat
through.
tone and pop through. So it acts as a panel, and it's a cheaper way to paint. So we used to, like, back in the 90s, when we had to be very quick, we used to just basically buy mulch, and then these little high coats, they were like 250 ml. They smelled like pearl drops, the sweets. Yeah, they could work in pretty good rain as well. I mean, I know we all talk buntlack. I was out of the sort of age of buntlack, really. You know, like I bought some since, and I bought some about 20 years ago, and it was all right. But yeah, for us, it was like mulch, fat outline, and then little high coat, and then just do the little things with that. And that was a quick piece, big space. Done, you know. Have you ever had anyone on your podcast that's actually gone into the technicalities of the cap?
That's what we're talking about now. That's
Okay.
why I wanted to bring it up because how you can control a fat cap is like something else. Like you have to be skilled in the art of.
Yeah.
Like, never mind, skinnies and stuff like this. Is just all bravado.
Yeah. It's the can control, right?
Yes.
But if you take the caps, if you take your favourite caps, right, and you turn them upside down, and you look inside them, they've got a little tube in them, and that slit inside is the thing that allows for the pressure, right? So you look at the slit, and if it's got a thick slit, it's a fat cap, right? If it's got thin, it's a banana skinny, right? And then if you take them off and you go between brands, sometimes one will fuck up the other because the brands don't mix. So you'll screw up your your skinnies, right? Unless you've got cap cleaner now, like, because that's quite a good thing. If you have cap cleaner on you and you've got little skinnies, just keep putting that on there every night, and you can then do the whole.
So for your money, what
that.
is the best paint for a fat cap?
Wow, for an Astro cap.
Yeah.
Oh man,
something like
your
that,
big
yeah.
600s for an Astro have got high pressure and they're amazing to go with. In terms of something which is like your 400, which has got a fat cap on it, then I would say for me, I have to say I'm enjoying Clash. I'm enjoying Clash at the moment. I had my period with MBQ, which I enjoyed. Because I describe it as toothpaste. Like 94, it's a little bit dusty.
But it's also
Like
slower-
the loop is
slower
obviously
pressure as
wetter.
well, yeah.
Like, and I'm back in Ironlac when Ironlac was really hitting the scene. A lot of people didn't like the smell, but it had a kind of a clean kind of with a fat cap. It was quite good like that. And then Belton, obviously, you're expensive, and as I said before, so you're putting it on that, and you kind of can. You're like, I should have used my cheap one, you know. So like I would.
Oh, I should have bought 3.
Yeah. So like I would tend to go with myself the cheaper range with fat caps. But if you can then come down from that, you go for a pink dot, right? So a pink dot allows you for a reduction in pressure coming off the back of it. So you can actually find that you can do those tiny spittled lines, skinny ones.
And you can go like tight.
And then, so the beauty of that is if you want to kind of, have you seen like when Soffels paints or like there's certain artists that can just go from fat and then go and then really control into skinny.
Control it and it looks like a thin skinny cap.
And where you get that tiny little, it looks speckled, in some of the, like Cranio is an artist who I've seen he does sort of Brazilian indigenous blue characters. You know him, and you go close and he's like that. And big up Mau Mau as well. Like he does the foxes. You can see he uses the pressure of kind of reducing pressure and getting
Can
the
you
skinny
tell it
ones.
from an artist's point of view? Can you tell when someone's done something with a particular cap?
Definitely.
Really?
Yeah. And when it's yeah, definitely. Like and then
But that's the skill set, isn't it?
yeah. And now you've got these mosquito caps, so I think you can even get metal ones. I bought one from Deal Cup in Nottingham, and it had, not only could you turn them like italic, but they go outwards like that as well. So you could have like two following parallel lines with it, and it's got a brassy bottom on it. You've got to keep it clean and keep it nice, give it a kiss, take it over, you know, that one. But like in terms of being able to like then control that whole italic, you can work out, am I right-handed? So if I'm right-handed rather than left-handed, and you want the, say, serifs to go that way, you could just get that cap, do those moves, you know, like get close to the wall, and then you can sort of drag and pull like that, and then you can get like beautiful serifs from those kind of caps. Yeah.
Can you tell when someone's done? Can you, to the degree, can you tell when someone's left-handed and right-handed in the way that they?
Normally, yeah.
Really?
Yeah, but there's some writers, like there's some amazing artists I've seen that are lefties, like Chio and Freedom in Bristol are really good, like really
Old type,
good standard. Yeah,
Micro.
they're good left-handers. And yeah, you genuinely can, because if you imagine, there's the slant, isn't there? You know.
Yeah.
There's normally a
Yeah.
kind of. So if you're leaning into a wall, if I turn myself around like this, right, and I'm like got my arm on the wall and I don't want anyone to see, then your movement's like this, isn't it?
Yeah.
Right. So if it's dipping down like that,
Yeah.
then you're probably right-handed.
So you're
right?
really
Instead-
looking-
If
you're
you're
like-
thinking you're left, it's a bit kind of awkward, right?
Yes.
You know.
Yeah.
Unless your hand's on the wall and you're doing like a
Yeah.
hand plant or something.
Yeah.
But then, you know, I don't study them that hard. I don't study a lot of artists' other work that hard. But,
No, but I think it's an unwritten display. I think it's something that. Yes, my brother. Yes. That's a good podcast we're dialing in here, people. It's the idea of when you stand back and you see a piece, and you're looking at it. It's the unwritten. You know, you just know and it's those little details that perhaps you're not thinking to yourself, okay, this was a right-hander or a left-hander. It was this cap, it was this thing, it was that. It's more about his craft is on. His craft is on point because he knows himself and he's on it.
yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. And also the other thing which I love is when you know it's your mate and they're really good and they're getting dizzy, you can tell. And then it all starts becoming lapsadaisical. And then it's more like, should we chip off? Do you want to have dinner? And, you know, like...
Go
and
get
you
a
know,
beer or
it's
something.
Yeah. And then it's like, how long have you got? How long have you got left? And when you're starting
Well,
off...
can you well,
yeah.
when they're rushing,
Yeah.
you can...
You don't want to rush your mate, do you?
No.
You don't want to, but some people will naturally have things to do
Yeah.
and say, cheers, later, chip off.
Yeah.
But you kind of, if you're there for a day out with your
can
mate,
see
you
the
know, like,
difference.
if it's a day, like, or, you know, it seems like there's a sweet spot between graph and then kind of more your spray can art, let's say,
Yeah.
like where the next stage of turning what's graph into more like bigger piece and do it nicely and spend the day and take a packed lunch kind of vibe. But but with those days, when even if someone's finishing, you don't really want to be chipping off and leaving them alone too much. Depends if they arrive super late and then it's their fault and then, different. Or if they go into dark mode and then you're like, I have to come all this way to take a photo in the morning or all this kind of stuff. It changes then. The dynamic changes. But if they're doing it and you can see that they're enjoying themselves and you don't want to be saying, come on, you know? You don't want to be saying that to your mate.
That's so interesting you say that, because I think a lot of people, they go halfway, and then all of a sudden the phone rings, the missus calls,
Yeah.
you know, or the boys call, we've got to go fucking rave or wherever we go, and you have to kind of assimilate a little bit, and you have to work out, well, okay, you know what, I'm going to fucking quickly do this, like, highlights and such. They've all been there. That's a hard pill to swallow, because when you're with your boys, but also it works in accordance with the artwork. Like, what are you really putting out? Like, what really is the value of you being out in the first place? You know, people are going to take
Yeah.
photos of this thing and they're going to see it and they're going to see the value that it is.
I mean, that's another one, isn't it? Like,
Yeah.
do you do graph for the benefit of the public,
Or do you do it for yourself?
or do you do it for yourself?
What are you doing it for? That's the real question.
Exactly. Like, what are you doing it for? And I think that it's different for different people. Like, for me, it was like my best imaginary friend kept me out of trouble, like you said about my sport, right? It kept me out of trouble. And then it got me in trouble. And then it kept me out of trouble again. And then, but bit by bit, I knew I had, like, a long relationship with it, like, quite early on. It was like an addiction, sort of, you know? And, and sometimes it didn't sit well with, people, loved ones and stuff like that. They didn't get it. They saw it as a waste of money, a waste of time, should be focusing on other stuff. But for me, it's something I couldn't put down. So when it comes to, what you're saying was, like, when it comes to you doing it for yourself, that's the time when you can really develop a good standard. Like, if you know that it doesn't come quick, for some it does. I've met people before, they pick up cans, and I'm like, wow, like that. And I'm like, you should stick with it. And then like, no, I'm off doing something else. You know, it could be like they've got family stuff to do. They want to save the money. They want to go traveling. They want, whatever it is. But in terms of, for me, it was so important. And I had a crew. They're not so active now, but they're called Small Time Rockers, STR. And we had this attitude of we're anti-king. We're trying to be cool in the 90s, And we had this book, and it was called The Bible. It was an A5 Polly Pocket book, right? And there were lads from Leicester, London, Bristol, some from North Devon, over Barnstable, over that way. It was one over there. And then some in Wales, right? And we used to fill the front with a 35mm original old school, with those shots, and then send it on to the next one. Like, so shoebox the old ones, keep them quiet, as shoebox, and then fill the front, little note in there, next writer, kind of thing. And that was our, like, round robin or whatever,
Wow.
And we used to, like, go to Boots, because they did 24-hour or 1 hour processing. And one of us would be a spotter there, and we'd go and... we'd always take the 1 hour, always the 1 hour, don't do the 24. It shortens the opportunity to get caught in that. But, like, so we would get that, and then we'd be like, yeah, and take our reels, like, tick them in, get them back, go... These are shit, these photos, because you've borrowed your mum's happy snapper, a little kind of thing.
Yeah.
And you'd have like 3 out of 27. Like sometimes you get 24, but 3 extra or whatever. Or if you're rich, you get 36. But
This is crazy. Wow.
yeah, that's how we used to keep up to date with each other, And then
Before internet,
yeah, well, for internet, you can tell, man. You can tell some of these things.
Come on, cuz.
Yeah. So, I mean, with that kept us with our head down, trying to be different in style to even our own crew.
Because you're keeping up with them.
Yeah, but they would influence us in that they were amazing at what they were doing. They're, like, really pushing it and going off in directions that I was really impressed with. And it made me go,
it's like
I'm
an
not
incubation
biting
space,
from my
isn't it?
mates, but
Yeah.
I really want to do my bit, I'm not biting from my mates. I'm not biting from other writers. I'm not copying anything. I just want to, like, focus on my bit and then make that as good as I possibly could. And that's through that dogged determination.
Yeah.
That's where I'm now. Like,
It's a healthy competition as well. Just fucking
yeah, like an
driving.
internal one, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, and, fair play to that crew. Wicked STR, man.
Yeah,
All
big
you
up.
boys, amazing.
Big up.
So that was quite an important thing in the 90s. That one, mid to late 90s, I suppose we really got going with that. For me, like, if I can go out with an amount of paint, which is not a ridiculous amount of paint, it's kind of got smaller over the years, even though I do like having a range, it's just light, medium, and dark, and it's funky colours, like some dark and some mid.
Do you prefer that? You prefer that?
I just love
short
not
range?
knowing.
Yeah.
I love kind of in the middle, like kind of if I've got like say 12 cans. Quite often the white, I don't use much of it. It's the little doodads. I call them sexplosions at the end. like doodads, exposures, get them on there, little flare bits and like highlights and stuff. But you quite often end up with a lot of white. Don't use a shitload of black. It's like the ones up from there used mainly. And then with the brighter colours, then they bring it to life. You know,
Yeah.
like that's the bit 2/3 for a piece where I'm like, okay, I'm understanding it now because I purely freestyle. I stopped drawing in 2003. Between 2000 and
Well, you stopped
2003.
sketching.
Yeah, no black book, nothing, done. And then just went bang, straight on wall, made my mistakes out in the outdoors. And got on with it.
Okay, so okay. First of all, restriction comes creativity, which makes complete sense. Like the more you have in paint colours, the more you're, susceptible to making.
A dog's dinner of it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
To not have a sketchbook.
Yeah.
Now that's a learnt experience.
Yeah, that's where I went. Enough is enough. None of that. Straight on. Look at the space, like we said, where your wall will dictate your
Yeah.
size of piece, and your mates how big they want to be. And some of them are space invaders. Hold tight. A few of my mates were definitely space invaders. So what you do is you say you mulch a whole stretch out, right? And say you do 52 steps, right? And then you do your maths and you work it out and you go, right, and walk along it and you go dot, dot, or line, or even on the floor is better, actually. Doing it on the floor rather than the wall, because then
Or
you
like
have to
bang,
mulch
bang,
it out.
bang, bang on the bottom of it.
Yeah, and,
okay.
and then you don't come past here, mate.
Yeah.
You know this, right? And guaranteed, but you...
God, I love this.
As
This
you
is
get to
fucking
know
great.
them, you then work out an extra space
Yeah, yeah,
for
yeah,
them,
yeah.
you know? And then you go, right, that's the real buffer. A bit
Yeah.
like when your mate's late.
Don't fuck with the buffer, man.
Yeah, don't fuck with my buffer, man. And it's like, you then know, right, that all those spaces, if they're equal, all the pieces will fit that size, and then your photo of the whole wall will look more unified.
Yeah.
And some of you might just do characters, so you get them in the right places. I'm a big fan of cool burners, nice.
How much
character,
importance is the unified aspect? Because my biggest bugbear is, and I'll say this loudly, is when it doesn't correlate with the people that is in the wall.
Yeah,
Whether it's the
like-
background or anything, like how come people can't just come together and just, even if it's just using the same colours or just something like that, is that something that you take into account?
For me, I'm a bit of a wild card because I just go with my thing, and I love it when I get together with wicked writers who are real good mates of mine, love to bits, and they go, just let me know some colours. Let me know some of your colours. Take a photo of the floor when you've got them all out and let me know, and I can choose something according to it. But then they also go, but they're Minto colours. They'll say, that they're Minto colours.
Which goes back to before.
But I also concede, it's not too big for my boots. But in terms of, yeah, I agree with you in terms of when you've got a whole wall and there's a tie,
I love it, man.
It looks wicked.
I love it. Just like an electric something or something
Yeah.
happening. Just beautiful, beautiful.
I just said, let's say, I'm going to tell you a quick little story, right? So, and I promised him I'd talk it with Tizer. Hold tight, Tizer.
Hold tight,
again,
Tizer.
right?
My boy.
We woke up one day and we were laughing like kids on the phone. He was right down South London, I was Central North, right? So I said to him, I'm up for getting arrested, not getting arrested today. And he went, I love that. And I was like, I've got my eye on the wall. And he went, me too. I was like, well, you go first. He went, the Roundhouse in Camden. And I went, that's exactly the wall I had in mind.
Fuck
And
off.
innit? So we had never seen a full colour on that wall ever,
Stop
right?
it.
No one's ever taken the whole thing out. It had a train on there originally, like a beautiful mural, but it had some good dubs, but it was just generally never taken out mulch and big pieces, right? So we said that's what we're doing. So we turned up there, yeah, and I had this mad red, where did I get it from? It was from Manchester way. It was 5 litre, super red crimson tub. The pigment on it was crazy
Banging.
good, your t-shirt but a bit more zing, respect. And so we started rolling it out, right? The whole lot. And then we had people from a coffee shop and a local cafe come over to us, and I had the presence of mind to put on a T-shirt which said London Mural Festival, because I thought if I wear that, there's a little Jedi. No, there's no
These aren't the
stormtroopers
droids.
hanging out
These
in
ain't
this
the droids
neighbourhood
you're
today.
looking for,
Yeah, exactly. And so started doing it. And on the bus, he said, "Have you got a theme in mind?" Like, which is very rare for us too. We turn up on the day and we use what we got, and that's why I love painting with him. Is that we just we both make life easy for each other, you know, and then we have great laugh after. And during, by the way.
Yes.
I said, all right, I'm thinking on this one, Optimus Prime, right? I've got this in my head, as Transformer thing going on, right? And he went, yeah, I'm thinking Ram LZ. I'm like, well, there we go. And so, like, they're both kind of like these characters.
Hybrid.
They were like a sort of 80s flex, definite 80s flex.
Yeah.
You know, from our childhood, that we were really, you know, keen on. And so we started painting that, and I think we got a couple hours in, and then the staff came from the manager of the Roundhouse, and they went, "We're really sorry to say it, but we know you're illegally painting here, and we're surprised you haven't been caught already, because the police were going by all the time." And I was like, how do I politely tell them
Fuck off. Yeah, we haven't finished yet.
Yeah. And then I was like, hashtags. I was like, hashtag Roundhouse. I was like, right, just so you know, he's famous. I went, he's famous in this city, you know, with Graff. And then I'm starting like this carrot crunching fucking Bristolian from out of town, you know. and I'm like, he's famous. And everyone's going to put Roundhouse, hashtag Roundhouse. If they're the snapparazzi from London, they know who we are and they like taking photos of us and are doing our thing. They're going to go, hashtag Roundhouse, guarantee.
Boom.
They went, that's amazing. We're going to go and tell her that. All right, you go and do that. And then meanwhile, we're getting brought coffees, falafels.
Really?
Like, yeah, we're getting all the communities giving us food and that. It's brilliant. And so they're seeing this, they're witnessing all this sort of experience. And so they went off, and then they came back and they went, she's not having it. And then they went, oh, hang on. And they looked at what we had. Now we're almost finished.
You're already done, yeah.
Well, we've got another hour and a half, like, you know, because we were there for the day. There's no messing around. We were there properly for the full day to do something, you know, a full day being, say, 6.5 hours or something like that, right? Yeah, so then it said, she's not having it, but we told her already that you finished. How long have you really got? And we went, hour.
Yeah, really.
And we were like, that'll do us. And then we got to the pub and we were like, we just got away with it. Was, you know?
Banging Pete.
Yeah.
But my bigger question.
Big one.
Yeah, a huge one. But my question is like, how were you able to illustrate that artwork? Like, you know, the Darth Vader, the whole thing. Like, were you working with scraps? Like, it's not like an afterthought. This is something that is like, well, this is a really big production now.
No, because we both of us can, but like, I don't know if you've watched him paint quite a few times, and I'm similar. We can go home quite often with a lot of paint if we go out with a lot of paint, because we use the background as elements of the piece, you know, and because we're confident with the strokes, because we've got the experience of doing all them.
So you can do a shade with a black, and you can work.
Yeah, like you can pluck the whole big piece out with using very little paint, you know. But that takes time to be able to do that. When people first start,
It's like a
they're
learned
all about
experience, isn't it?
Oh, big time! Like, and also being you know, not having a lot of money when you're a kid and starting that way, and you know, but
Working with resources.
yeah. So there's always someone that can. You'll always meet some writer that like you think you finished a can, and they'll say, "Give it to me," and they put a Astro cap on it. They'll chuck it on the floor, and they'll get their foot. Have you ever seen people do that?
Yeah, and crunch
and
it.
They roll
yeah,
it, and
that's
they will
right.
like, or they'll drop it. You know, keep dropping it from above, and get the ink towards the top, and then just because it's fat, it's high pressure. It lets a lot through of a little amount of paint. Or they'll, you know, the dreg busting.
Yeah.
But then that's more fills and spacey stuff, really.
God,
but,
that's, you know what I mean?
yeah, but you
Getting
can.
an intel here, people. Real detail. Real detail.
Yeah.
Your life has gone through so many different experiences. there's something that we want to bring up, which is mental health.
Mm-hmm.
Something that holds dear to both our hearts.
Mm-hmm.
You know, things that you've been through. Please elaborate. You know, please explain.
I think that more and more of us now are more in tune with, certainly with men's mental health, like has come into the fore just recently. In that there's a lot of young fellas that have a kind of a lost position, it feels like, or a lost sense of responsibility and role. So I know in terms of, I don't know if you ever listened to Blind Boy podcast. He's a guy from Limerick.
No.
He's a fascinating guy, and during his podcast, he had viewers or listeners saying, "Have you been checked for autistic spectrum disorder?" sort of thing. And now it's called like neurodiversity, you know, like in terms of being autistic or ADHD. And ADHD can also be ADHD without the hyperactive bit. And it can also link to, you know, like being young children with a lot of responsibility put on them. And it can also link to dopamine, effects of dopamine on them, maybe having less dopamine. Sort of. So there's a lot of people that have underlying sort of neurodiversity, and they're not conforming very well to modern day society, you know. And I think that there's even been like quite a few documentaries about the number of prison inmates that have
Really?
ADHD, and
Really? Wow.
yeah. So, you know, for someone, you know, like myself, there was a period where I started to go for a tick list and go, hang on a minute, I did all right at school, and then after college, it all started to like kind of go a bit wibbly, you know. And then loads of jobs I did, I started to find I was struggling, you know, that if they turned me into a pie chart, I'm off. I couldn't sit in my chair, I'm off, you know. But the things that I'm really passionate about, I'll stick there and I'll do it, you know, hence my graph and where it's got me.
Yeah.
So I've got, a lot of like air time or you know, personal one-to-one time for people that have had difficulties and understand. Some of these listeners might not even know like about it. They might be completely oblivious to it.
No, absolutely.
It seems like it's something that we're getting more to know about.
Yeah.
But if you get like task paralysis, for example, and then you get clouded vision over just doing meaningful tasks, that's one part of it. If you are someone that falls behind on paperwork and bills and doesn't know why, like, because other people seem to make it look really easy, and then or maybe you're in a relationship and your partner's going, you're let down on X, Y, and Z, and you feel that that there's something that's up that you can't help, you know, and it becomes cyclic, and then there's issues. So I think it's something to really take note of, because people with neurodiversity, like this blind boy guy now, is like, he sold out the Apollo.
Wow.
I went to see him at the Apollo. He sold it out. He's on a world tour currently. He's doing Australia and New Zealand. He sells out every city going. And what he does is talks about mindfulness, self-regulation, and then he goes into these hot takes, which are amazing, like super interesting. Yeah, hold tight, blind boy. If you're ever listening to this, mate,
Hold
big
tight.
respect to you,
Hold
mate.
tight.
So in terms of with ADHD particularly, it's important to have your own me time, you know, just to do your own thing. It's almost like a form of meditation that's away from
It's so
everyone
important for people to do that, particularly with ADHD, because a lot of times they don't want to give themselves time.
Yeah.
That's the other thing.
Yeah.
They don't want to give themselves time.
Yeah.
They it's almost like they know that they need to do it, but they don't want to do it.
Yeah, and it's self-sabotage.
Yeah.
They know they're supposed to do it. Like,
Yeah.
I remember GCSEs coming up, and I'm watching World Cup or like kind of Wimbledon, and I'm like, shit, I should be getting some time down on what they want. But man, I'm here. I'm living the moment. I'm enjoying it.
Yeah, I'm
you know?
doing it. Yeah, totally.
So over time, I mean, I'm approaching 50 now, you know, and
Serves you right. Minto podcast, come on, send it up.
For a 50-year-old, hey.
Send it up.
But like in terms of, it takes a good chunk of your life to find that balance and what works for you. So, you know, for me, I live a life where I'm super happy with it.
Yeah.
Like I do some which is sensible and some which is creative, and I can do both. But I live a life that other people, I'm sure, if they're like, say working in Moorgate and they've got a suit on and they're thinking about which Pret sandwich do I have this Wednesday and how many reps at the gym I've done, they would probably look at me and go, what a dick. Like, how the hell is he, like, living his life, like, doing all this other stuff, like, where he seems to have all this freedom, like you said originally about travelling. How does he do it? And you take risks, and some risks work, some don't. And
What, from an observation? What
in terms of your work, in terms of where the money comes in, you know, like, you're self-employed,
Yeah.
right? Me too. And the autonomy that you get is amazing, isn't it? I'm having a bad day today. I'm staying in bed.
See, it's the kind of lyrics we like on podcasts. But it's true.
But it's true, isn't it?
Yeah.
And so if you were stuck to a 9 till 5, would it do your head in?
Kill me off.
Yeah.
And big shout out to everyone that's doing it. Hold tight. Everyone that's, you know, working at 9 to 5 and getting families together and keeping the thing moving.
Some people have to conform to structure, and there's other people that just, no matter how hard they try, they will blow that apart, and they can't do it. And they'll, you know what I mean? There's just are some that are. You know, and I've always respected people that can, you know, hold
it together, yeah.
Yeah, like people that have, you know, like a pension after doing 40, 50 years of service to a company that's you know, the same place.
Yeah, I know.
You
It's
know,
crazy.
I respect it, but I'm too wild for that. I'm off. You
Yeah.
know? I find it doesn't work for me. So,
Do you ever worry about that?
what for the future?
Mm.
There's always anxiety in terms of like worrying about things that will come up in the future. I think that's natural. I think that the past often is about depression and regret, and the future is anxiety.
Yeah.
But the present, living in the present, is what we all should be doing.
That's right.
We should all be enjoying that, like this moment we're in now.
And you got to sell it to me, pal.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's right.
And I think that if you
you're right.
overthink the future and overthink the past, that's where often problems
That's where
can
it
come.
starts getting a bit tricky.
Yeah.
I had some friends, more particularly my hairdresser, Ninja.
Yeah.
Big shout out to Ninja.
All right, Ninja.
It's a very personal
Never met you,
conversation.
mate.
Yeah,
Don't really need one, but I bet you're great.
Yeah, he's great. He's great. You know, and he's got his pension. He's like popping off, and it's all happening. You know, but only by default he was able to get it. But before then, he was working hand to mouth doing haircuts. You know, the relief he got from that. And I think when I look at him as a creative, as a haircutter. I think to myself, man, like if it wasn't for that one thing that suddenly gave him
Backbone.
relief.
Yeah.
Relief. You know, I think for any creative, I think it's worth mentioning that shit's unknown.
Oh man, imagine I'm sure I've heard someone else being interviewed with you before that's talked about graffiti, then spray can art, then street art, then muralism or something like that. I mean, think about this huge amount of people coming through universities with a huge vibe about being commercial as artists. And then as soon as they come out, say they're super talented, they will undercut every existing person going, right? So there's a lot of people that they almost rest on their laurels. Like they're doing something and they think it's going to last forever. But, you know, life doesn't last forever, and you have to adapt, don't you?
Yeah,
and,
you do. Evolve or be extinct.
Yeah, exactly.
You've always been about that.
Yeah. I've always tried to just have a low footprint, really.
Low footprint, see? That's what I love. People that just keep on the surface and just keep it moving. Ain't no trouble to no one.
Yeah.
I'm just moving with the moment.
Yeah.
This is
And you all don't need to know me. Like
Yeah.
the people that know me will know. You know, there's a load of people that I love dearly, and but for me, it's the the art itself is the communication. Like, that's the communication. The rest of it, in terms of me as a character and stuff, I like to get on with people, but it's not important, really, is it? Like, it's about making people close to you value you, you know?
Yeah, and it's who's in that circle makes all the difference, right? They're G'ing you up.
Yeah.
My brother, it's been an absolute pleasure chatting to you,
My brother.
my guy.
Really,
Minto.
massive pleasure.
Minto
Thanks,
in the
Killa.
house.
Thank you, Killa.
It's been good. It's been a pleasure.
Yeah.
Ladies and gentlemen, Minto in the house. Killa Kela podcast out like in was out of fashion, serves you all right. Remember, crime don't pay, but neither do they. All right? Don't talk to anyone I wouldn't. And you stay lucky. Take care of
Respect.
yourselves.
Wicked.
Easy. Whee! Yeah, boy. That was sick.
Wicked.